data privacy and intrusion and people's privacy, things like that, how long do you keep the data? I think there's a really long discussion that has to be had for this before we go forward. For instance, I was reading an article where some insurance companies had gotten a hold of data and changed people's rates because of that, and that wasn't the intent. Some municipality shared it with the state, and then someone in the state office actually downloaded it and sent it to a insurance rate. So there's issues there. I think New Hampshire has set it up so that it only resides on their servers for 3 minutes, which is kind of extreme, but all they're doing is they're saying, you know, if I'm looking for this car, if I don't find it, I'm getting rid of the data. And obviously, if there were a particular car you're looking for, you could keep that. But just in general, the data it collects.
Sure.
And other places, I think 72 hours is a common one. I think the county is doing 30 days, which seems kind of extreme to me. But there's a big discussion that has to be had around data privacy. The other thing that came up was, I guess someone in the city of Syracuse pushed the wrong button and shared the data with the world. And there were like 4.4 million searches on Syracuse residents who had gone by the Syracuse cameras that, you know, like people from Russia were checking, just crazy things. So there's a whole privacy side to this. That
Sure, no privacy on public property though. You gotta keep that in mind.
Well,
Right, but still.
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, there's a little big brother.
Yeah, so
always
do I
been
want my employer to be able to tell I wasn't where I was supposed to be, or, yeah, there's all kinds of things.
Right, yeah. Yes, and that's all valid concerns. And this has just been solely exploratory. It's, you know, they're gonna work on what they would think would be a good coverage for the town. And then we'll probably have a presentation by the sales rep, you know, to show us, you know, what those, I have not asked those questions yet.
I honestly think it's probably a good system to have, but I think before we get it, we have to set some ground rules and some guidelines on this is the way we want our data handled.
Yes, yeah, oh, absolutely. I wouldn't want to be the one to accidentally send everybody's license plate information out to the world.
Where you were today.
Everybody will know. I mean, the one thing, talking about that in Georgia, you know, he showed me the coverage in Georgia, and he said there is literally no place in Georgia you can drive on a main road without being picked up by a camera. Now, I mean, Georgia has a lot more, they have a lot of other issues that we don't deal with in New York State, but.
7,000 seems light then.
That's all.
When you think about the miles of road in the state of Georgia,
You look at a
7,000.
coverage map and you see how, you know, you gotta go through certain areas.
I was just saying,
You
Jordan,
know,
you ever been on Peachtree? You know how long that road is? Maybe 25 miles, Peachtree, over.
So I'll get more information on that. You know, this was, I had reached out to him, you know, we're coming into budget season to get an idea. I should have more at the September 4th meeting to, you know, maybe put a bullet in on the budget of, you know, an idea.
Maybe it's a ramp up thing too. You know, you don't put the whole network in one year. You put it in.
See how it works.
Yeah. Put in five the next year or something.
Yeah. So those were the items, Mr. Merrill. I know you've got a couple things on the agenda with the public hearings. You probably might not stay, and I
really
don't
want to sit through public hearings.
Come on, Kevin.
Be a team player, Kevin.
You want to sit and join us this evening?
Yeah. So you can explain the couple of motions.
A week ago Monday, Annika had spoken to me about resigning. So she had, some of it was due to financial reasons, but she had also decided that she wanted to go to nursing school.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, that's fine.
we had, so I went to I checked the availability and spoke with the next best person that we've
Yeah,
interviewed.
and just so everybody knows,
So that was
you and
Carter
Counselor
Smith.
Gerasi performed, we had to go through the civil service part because there was no list, and then you and Counselor
Exhausted.
Gerasi, right, you exhausted,
There was-
we interviewed.
There was no longer a list
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
You should have been on the email
was
last time I sent it
active.
again.
Right,
So we didn't, so I
You get a copy.
confirmed that with civil service. We didn't have to go through a civil service
We got a new
search again.
updated one today, yes.
So that allowed me to go right back to the individuals that we interviewed. I went back to the next best one on the list, who was a really good candidate, as well as Annika was, and it was really a toss-up between the two. So I spoke with her, and she was available, and brought her in. We just discussed what the availability was, and she was interested. So I made an offer to her, and that's Carter Smith.
very good.
So
it's
Carter's a
kind of-
female.
Yes.
Excellent.
So,
And then the Animals Agent Special Event License.
Yeah, that's-
I mean, this has been going on for a few years now, so.
Unfortunately.
four or five, I think it is. So they think that this might be their last year for whatever reason. So,
Oh,
but yeah, pretty cut and pretty simple with them. Just copy and paste their event license, and they get together the sheriff they need for traffic control, and their insurance is all
Oh, this is their visual.
what it is, satisfying our
I'm gonna
requirements.
send you
So
the actual,
they're good to go.
great.
come on.
Does anybody have any questions or no? Thank you, Mr. Carroll. You stick around for the rest of the work session if you want.
Well, I mean, just as far as like a department report or whatever, the parking lot, we're just waiting to have, well, actually, was that a little over a week ago? Our
Yes,
weekend, we
it
had
was
a
almost 2 weeks ago.
tractor trailer almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Tractor trailer pulled into the Spence lot, as far as all of our new freshly oil and stone parking lot, and sat there and caused some damage. So waiting for highway I talked to John about doing some repair of that. And then sweeping the lot. As soon as we're swept, Al and I are ready to schedule line striping of the lot. So then probably early, before we really roll into spring next year, I'll have all brand new signage put up as well. So
So are we gonna oversee the striping this time, Al, someone, so that way it's done properly?
we'll get it professionally striped.
Or no?
One way?
One way?
We're gonna get it professionally straight.
Okay, good.
Yes. So the end is not upside down.
But you know how many people that drove by there that didn't know that it was there? That's the sad thing.
Listen, we got a lot of traction on social media. If you're of the thought that any
I don't read.
any advertising is good advertising, there's a lot of advertising.
Anyway, the parking lot is nearly done. Al and I just measured out some field for some field repair, just to keep all the fields in good condition. So we'll work with Casanella to do that. That's something we've already had in the budget. We have registration still open for B Fast Track and Field, which is coming up first Sunday in September. And then registration is out and open for Halloween window painting. People are already looking for that, so. And then we've got information out. We collaborate with Orange and Olive on Spooky Hollow Fest. And so we've got promotion that's started to go out for that. A lot more of that comes from Orange and Olive, but that's coming up as well in early October. So that's about it.
Great.
Anything else?
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. And I'll mention here that the Pop Warner this weekend's doing their kickoff Saturday afternoon. They're doing work with.
Well, their kickoff is Sunday
Right.
with a full game schedule. Saturday, they coordinated with Beagle varsity football team and their booster club to do kind of an open varsity practice, and so they can interact with the Pop Warner kids and the families and
Yeah. So that's going on this weekend also? Over at the park. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, the only other things I got left are Melvin Farms and the proposed code changes to give the board an opportunity if we wanted to bang things off the engineer. Are the developers coming tonight? Okay, so.
They are.
Just Mario, I don't believe Ken is coming this evening,
Okay.
but just Mario.
When do you want to go over these?
We can start discussing them now. Do you want to do Melvin Farms or? Well, first off, does anybody have any questions on the code changes? Because I'm sure Melvin Farms is a little more.
Are these the code changes right here? Yes,
That's just the Cliff's notes on the planning boards. County planning, that's pretty much what they said when you read through the 2 pages. Our planning board and our zoning board, we're just, we haven't changed anything in the actual code changes. The biggest thing we would talk about is the fee. The fee change, the per acre fee. So, but if we wanted to, well, actually, we could hit that now. I'd actually talk to the town and we'll go through the proposed code changes because those are pretty quick. Jim's not here. Usually he shows up. I had thought the proposed code change, the one thing the planning board had said was they wanted to up the fee of 500 per acre, which is what we usually have for a subdivision fee in lieu of parks, right? That's where they came up with it. They wanted to move it up to $1,000 to $3,000. Now, I thought they wanted to tie it to prime soils. I think after reading the minutes, they were leaving a range of $1,000 to $3,000 an acre.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, so when I was talking to the town attorney yesterday,
If we had a range that was, for example, tied to soil condition, prime soils, and we had a requirement that you have them tested independently, and whatever that came back, that would be the per acre fee. It's kind of an independent, non-arbitrary, non-capricious decision. If we just leave it to somebody in the town to say, yeah, I think the soils are really good there, or I think they're not so good, or they're medium, you always run the risk of inviting turmoil or litigation over that issue. So my advice would be, it's not that you can't have a range, but if you're going to have a range, it should be tied to a discernible,
something measurable.
a measurable characteristic.
But if it's good soil, no one wants to farm it. What good is the soil?
Well, I mean, that's a whole different point, right? My point is, though, if you're going to put a range in, Al,
I mean, I recommended, so the $500 came from me, and I thought it was easy to justify it because it matches the fee in lieu of parkland if you were developing a 1 acre lot in an AR40 or an agricultural district.
but that's one fee applied equally to everybody.
Exactly.
If you
And I thought
have
that
a
was,
range, you're going to have questions of how come they only have to pay 1,000 and I got to pay 3,000?
that's,
We need a standard that is easily referenced.
that's where the 500 came from.
Whether it's Al or whether it's the zoning board or the planning board or whoever it is, to be able to say, well, this is why. You know, for example, we required a soils analysis to be conducted by Ag and Markets, and they came back and we have a schedule. And if it comes back here, this is how much you pay. That's fine. If it's just left open for, best guess, so to speak, of people, I would say that's a poor approach from a legal standpoint. Al's approach of 500 across the board, very easily defensible, very fine. Everybody's treated the same, everybody's paying no problem. Even if you wanted to increase the fee to above the 500, and you wanted to say 1,000, as long as it's equally applied, okay. If you create a range, you need to be able to tie it to something that can be measured, preferably not by us.
Would 500 be too much, so to speak, for these solar farms? Or
No, I think that's a pretty fair number. I mean, they average on, the Saints are about 40 acres. So it's a sizable chunk of change, from a fee standpoint.
Because I remember reading
It's not insignificant.
associations of towns, I think the town of Delmar did increase the fee for solars to like $3 or $5, something happened. That's why I remember that, yeah.
Well, I don't think it was tied to anything other than a dollar amount per acre.
Yeah.
And that's where, when I was reading it, if we were gonna tie it to like a prime soils or something along those lines, I could see it having a sliding scale of, well, what's the quality of soils? Now, Mr. Herkel also said, well, it could be great prime soil, but can you get equipment into it? Someone could say it could, even though it's good soils, and it might not necessarily be accessible for the farm.
There's a lot of
You could have good soils and you can't get a tractor in there, and you can't farm more than 3 acres.
I think
before we're gonna
so,
develop.
yeah, I get that point. So is there an industry
Make sure
standard?
that it doesn't.
Is there
There's
is
a
500, is
yes,
1,000? What is the industry standard that we?
There is, most municipalities have not associated a fee with these.
I like, $500 flat fee per acre, call it in.
So let me chime in. We all agree that a sliding scale is ridiculous. I think it sounds really arbitrary. So my only question is, why not make it 1,000 instead of 500? Why not?
I think the nice thing about 500 is you're able to tie it to
Builders.
An existing fee
Similar-
already on the books.
the existing fee that's on the books, that you're taking this land and making it so that it can never be, in this case, what, parkland?
Well, you're not dedicating land for parkland as part of the solar project, so nor do we want the land dedicated as parkland, so we're gonna collect a fee.
Not if there's panels on it, no.
Well, period, you don't want, we don't want to have parkland parcels next to every solar field in town.
Yeah. So, in that respect, it's already tied to a discernible fee that is charged, and it relates to a very rational application of that, okay? You're taking this out of the mix for this type of either development or preservation, and we already charge a fee for that. You're doing the same thing here with a different use,
Yeah,
but we're gonna charge you the fee for it.
Okay,
So
I hear you, Dave.
If we're gonna bump that up from 500 to 1,000 in this law, you really need to then think about, should we move it up 1,000 to 1,000 in the other subdivision code? Yeah.
So what's the worst case if we move it to 1,000 and keep the other at 500? What's going to happen?
Somebody Article 78's us and the Supreme Court says, you can't do that, and so they void that section of the law, and we move
come
forward
back to
from
the
there.
table.
Yeah, we come back to the table, yeah. I mean, that's worst case, it's not the end of the world, the town doesn't go to jail or anything like that, or there's no judgment against us, it's just, it can get overturned with the Supreme Court potentially.
Right, because if someone wants to come in and develop, the fee's 500 per acre if you want to take your 40 acres and break it into,
whatever.
30 units instead of whatever it's owned. And we have the subdivision fee, whereas if it's solar and we say, well, it's $1,000 an acre, then that's a solar fee. You could be like, well, why is it only 500 per acre?
It is, but the flip, I will say this, courts generally are very reluctant to substitute their judgment for that of a duly elected legislative body like yourselves. They don't like to, and there's cases that say, there's a lot of case law that says a court should refrain from interjecting its own opinion. So, a lot of times people are like, we're going to challenge this law, and when we win, the court's going to say, oh, it shouldn't be 1,000, it should be 500. That is not what a court would do.
Right.
The court would say, you can't do 1,000, and they remit it back to you guys and say, you figure out what you think you can do. I'm not going to try to influence your
So until such
independent
time,
elected official type
then we
decision.
go back to 500. So at this point, I'm saying let's make it 1,000 and call it a day.
Let somebody try to Article 78 go through that hoopla.
It makes no difference. I mean, Dave's a lawyer. The only reason I picked 500 was because that's what our fee in lieu of parkland is for a single family lot.
Sure.
I mean,
You can go to 1,000, and like like Councilor Gerasi said. If
And do you link it to the parkland, you
use
keep it linked to the parkland fee, I guess, is the
Or they
question.
can just pay the fee and do their development. So, you know,
Maybe they'll look
No.
somewhere else,
Well, that's right.
which we don't.
So the way we wrote this when we sent it to county planning was a fee of $500 per acre, which one thing we're trying to address is setting up a fee schedule instead of having it buried in the code somewhere of a fee, because if we put the wording in, then a board can decide as things change, and maybe every town decides $1,500 the right fee per acre, and that's the going rate, and we're meanwhile got it codified at 500. It's a lot easier to change the fee schedule
So
than changing a local
we would want
law.
to add to the local law a section that says something along the lines of, you know, the fees set forth in this local law may be amended from time to time by the duly adopted resolution, not a local law, a resolution of a majority of the members of the board. If you do that, you put that language in the local law, then going forward in the future, if you need to change the amount of the fees, or this particular fee, you can change it by resolution. As we modify any of our code sections that have fees or fines in them, we should always put that language in, because it eventually will create a circumstance where you'll be able to change fees and fine amounts by resolution as opposed to local law. The benefit of that is you don't have to do the public notice and hold a public hearing and take 2 months to adopt something, you know, as opposed to getting it done at one meeting.
Let's do it.
Okay, because the moratorium still exists for solar and battery storage until September 20th. So after our public hearing tonight,
If you're gonna change this to $1,000 a lot, my opinion, you're gonna need to renotice the public hearing and hold a new one on this.
okay,
It's not, the only time you don't have to redo that process is if you make a non-substantial change to the local law. And I can't say that the doubling of a per acre fee is non-substantial.
okay.
Okay?
Do you open it and adjourn the existing public hearing? Or do you open and close it?
You could open the public hearing to the extent there's anybody here that wants to comment tonight, just so the board has the benefit of it.
Yep.
And then I would close it.
Okay.
Because it's a public hearing on a law that's being changed.
Okay.
So you don't garner a benefit from keeping it open, because you're gonna have to hold another one anyway.
Other than, I was gonna say, paying another posting fee, but.
Except that you really need to do the other posting. I mean, when you change it like this, in fact, frankly, you're not even gonna call for a public hearing tonight. We're gonna change the local law. It's gonna get introduced at the next board meeting, at which you will call a public hearing for the following board meeting. You can't do it tonight, because you can't introduce the local law tonight with the amendment on it. Because nobody's here typing it up and changing it.
So my question is this, because we have 5 or 10 areas of the local law and the code changing that we've already sent through the plan,
Yep.
could we remove that section? If that is the only thing we see tonight in our changes, or do we have to send all of
What
this
you
back?
could do tonight is adopt, presuming everything else about the local law is acceptable, and all that you're considering is increasing the fee amount, then you could adopt the local, you could hold a public hearing tonight, adopt the local law as is with the $500 per acre fee in it. And then
Modify
next
it.
board meeting, we could introduce an amended local law, simply just changing that fee amount.
Is it a local law, or is it
It'd
a?
be a local law because it doesn't say in here. you
Because
can
we
change it
wrote
by
$500,
Yeah.
we didn't put the, so we'll do it that way, we still have, and if we have to extend the moratorium one more month to get it through the planning, I mean, I don't think we're gonna get much of a comment on it, but we'll follow the process as we have to.
And in
you know,
respect to the moratorium, the reality is you have a moratorium in place for doing exactly what it is you are doing right now, which is addressing a code revision to cover the type of activities which you placed a moratorium on, as opposed to some municipalities who will enact a moratorium and then do nothing. which is not what you're supposed to do. The Lysander's doing the correct thing. So if you have to, or you wanted to extend the moratorium because there was going to be a future revision, Lysander has a proposed law on the table. There's work being done on it. So you really meet the spirit of the requirements of having a moratorium.
Yeah.
You know, time out, I'm a little confused. I didn't realize, up until this point, I didn't realize we had a moratorium because we were working on a fee schedule for the.
No,
we're gonna have a whole law.
moratorium's separate from that. I'm just saying that even if,
Justifying extension of the moratorium.
Right.
Tells us to let you-
if we don't get
Process of
everything done in
finalizing
time
the
by
revised
September
law.
20th, nobody's gonna come in and try to say you've been extending this moratorium arbitrarily. You know, so the moratorium, just because if we adopt everything and change it, it doesn't, nobody can come in. We still have, the moratorium still is in effect.
All right,
That's,
all right.
yeah.
I just understood.
Yes, so it doesn't hit on that. Was there any other issues with proposed code changes? Okay. So then we can move over to Melvin Farms. You know, and this is just discussion for the board. You know, we're gonna have the public hearing. This is, you know, Mr. Yeager and I had sat down, came up with the revisions, we sent it off to the developer. So, you know, if the board has anything to not delay the public hearing, if they want to ask or discuss. So, do you want to?
Yes, okay, so if you guys get your copy out, I think you guys did a tremendous amount of good work here, and I just found a couple of things that I think need to be further clarified. So on page 4, at the bottom of the page, number 2, notice the town of failure to obtain a...
Excuse me, if you're just, we're in the middle of a work session, so if you're gonna have a discussion, just step outside until 6:30. Thank you.
So this section is notice the town of failure to obtain approval shall nullify the bond. So we're requiring the developer to post a bond for the completion of the sewer portion of the project. And if, what this section is saying, and I'll stand to be corrected, that if they fail, through no fault of their own, or regardless, to get some approval to build this thing, someone says, well, we're not going to green light it, just hypothetically, the bond, the whole bond thing is negated, it's null and void. Meaning, they can say, at that point, well, we can't build the sewer project. And I'm asking, and I think we have to put this in this section, okay, fine, you can't build a sewer project, you're not doing the development at all.
That's what it should state,
It's
that
not
if they
stating
don't
that.
do it, it's completely gone.
It's not saying that yet, Jeff, and that's my point. So this language has to be changed.
So I guess the only thing I would say is if they get denied an approval, the project is dead anyway, and therefore the letter of intent goes away, and they're starting all over from the beginning.
Yeah, but we need to specify that, Alan, and
Okay.
I think we need to make sure that that wording is in that section, that for it's clear as a bell that the whole project is dead at that point, entirely dead. Okay, Dave, so I want you to work on that. And if there's any further discussion, I have a few more items on. Want me to keep going?
Yeah, you're fine.
Page 5, number 3, notice to complete construction cure default. So this section is saying that if they fail to complete the sewer project and we cash in the bond and then the town takes over the construction of the sewer project, it's not, at that point, it's not saying anything about the overall project. And my thought would be the overall project is also dead at this point. We may take that money and complete the sewer project, go, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, but I am not going to allow this developer to proceed with his overall project if we're doing the work to build that sewer. Any thoughts?
I was writing something out from the previous.
Where is that?
That's page 5, number 3 in the middle of the book, page, notice to complete construction cure default. It basically says that if for some reason we have to claim that bond and take that money and build the sewer on our own.
Page 4 on the change 1.
Which makes sense.
Thank you.
But at that point, I don't want the developer to say, oh, well, you're doing the sewer part, we'll just continue to build our houses and stuff. We
Yeah,
have no
no.
obligation. They have, this gives them more incentives to make sure they do it. Because and we'll actually complete the sewer project.
With their money?
With their money.
Dave, how's that read to you?
So I guess go back to what, so the way I read this is simply that if you start work and you fail to complete the work on the pump station, we can call the bond and finish it, right? I mean, that's what this section says.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm just trying to tie that into what your concern is.
My concern is we're accepting a load of work to do. They're not fulfilling their obligation to do it. That means they can go about everything else they want to do with their construction project.
Like they can build everything else and say, oh, whoopsie, we didn't do the pump
Yeah, and
station,
you're-
call the bond, you guys take care of it.
Exactly, and I don't want to be in that position.
And then they hook up to the pump station. The whole premise is if the pump station's not built within a year, the project's dead completely.
Yeah, it's
No
18
fault
months,
of
but
their
yeah,
own.
it's 18 months.
It's 18 months. 16
So you
months.
want language in there that I
Yeah, we
guess the
take
flip
over.
side is if I'm the bond, so the bond normally is held by an insurance company. If I'm them, I'm gonna then argue with us about why would I even give you the bond? If you've killed the project, or not us, but if by operation of this agreement, the project is killed because 18 months have passed, you're not, you didn't fulfill the, like, it's kind of, why would they give us the money, the insurance company, to complete a pump station if we've killed the project that requires the use of a pump station? And why would we want to even do the work? Because no matter how good the bond is and how much it covers, what's the point of continuing if we don't?
Sewer are existing neighborhoods that need sewers in Baltimore Elementary.
I mean, okay, so if there's a benefit to it, I guess that makes sense.
So the whole premise of that is, because I wanted that put in here, is that it gets started right away. It doesn't just sit there and nothing ever happens, because there's been projects already been approved on that land 20 years ago, and nothing has ever happened. And that could be the case here. We approved this and it just sits there, and now we got an elementary school relying upon a pump station being built, and also residents as well too. And who's to say that could ever be built, or when it will be built as well too. So I want to put a timeline on it, so if and when this does get approved, that they have 18 months to approve it, or build this project, or the whole project's dead.
Okay.
Which
So,
that's noted previously.
It is, yeah.
What about a stop work on the balance of the stuff, conditioned on our receipt of the bond proceeds and conclusion of the pump station before you can recommence any of the other activities? I mean, ultimately, you would want them to finish, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Right, yes.
But we wouldn't want them to be able to finish that irrespective of what's going on with the pump station unless we got paid through the bond to cover our expense of finishing that work, right?
It's more than that, Dave. I don't want us to shoulder the responsibility of having Ally Yeager do one single bit of work on that pump station that the town has to oversee and be responsible for.
So the issue I kind of see with that from a drafting standpoint in terms of the agreement is, it's really shifting it away from a bond backing up the town's construction to a precondition.
I gotta say, there's other drawbacks to this too, Bob.
I'm all ears.
Yeah, so the other drawbacks to what you're saying is, so as I presented in, when we looked at the Palmer Elementary, hey, these are our options for sewering that. If you take out those 537 units, the debt service for the remaining parcels that are gonna be served by that pump station
Oh, it's extra.
is gonna go to $2,800 a year.
No, that's an excellent
Yeah,
point.
So I don't know, that may be counterproductive
I think you're right.
for our existing residents to put that in.
And we might not get control, you might not get approval.
Well, no, we would already have the district formed at that point in time, but it could be
But
yeah,
remember, it was all changed.
yeah.
It would have been formed based on per unit cost.
Yeah.
Totally off.
So the cost would go up more.
My concern.
Okay, well, it's, no,
No, this was a good discussion.
legitimate to
You
ask.
know, and so what we'll do is leave it alone.
Yeah, I believe it,
All
yeah.
right, two more things, if you don't mind. They're both on the, on page, where is it? Okay, page 8, number 5, landscaping, gravel paths, and use of park streets. So the A1, terrific, was my request. They're gonna plant trees and at 40-foot intervals, blah, blah, blah. And the more I think about this, you know, as trees get planted, some of them are absolutely going to die. And so I would like to see an ad infinitum clause there that the HOA would always continue to replace street trees as needed. So if a tree in front of your house dies, that was planted as part of I don't want the town to say, oh, well, the tree's dead.
Right, and so I was talking to Mr. Yeager about this, and I think the best path would be to not, obviously not have those trees within the right of way because the salt from the road.
Yeah, we call it out as in the common property, that's where they're supposed to.
So it would be more of an HOA, because they're gonna have an HOA. Part of this is they would have an HOA if it gets approved. So we would wanna put the onus on the HOA of having some kind of clause to keep some kind of tree or of similar, you know, because you don't wanna name a specific tree because you get a disease or something and, you know, but to have some kind of tree or shade cover in the front of each parcel, you know, to,
Right, so is that legit? Is that a legit kind of concern?
I think it's kind of a planning, honestly, I think that's something that the planning board needs to take. The planning board has more, it's more appropriate for the planning board to do that piece of it than right now. It's more of a site plan
So that would
approval
happen
issue.
after this?
I think so. I think
can we
that's more.
suggest it to the planning?
No, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So they make an independent decision.
Yeah, sure.
You want.
Well, that was my concern. If you put it in the incentive zoning, it's set in stone. There's a finite rule to follow. If it's a suggestion by a planning board, then you're going back and forth on, does the tree get replaced?
All right, so we'll just agree that we're going to send it to the planning board, recommend to the planning board, and just leave it like this?
Yep.
All right, fine. And then the last one I had is E, and this was, I think I misunderstood it, and I'll take the blame for that, but it says parkland fees paid by the applicant will be utilized by the town exclusively for a few percentage of the construction. I'm absolutely in favor of the Seventh River Trail set project, which may or may not ever happen. So what I would suggest we do here is that the park fees get used at the town's discretion to enhance recreation in the town of Lysander. Which means more than likely, if we don't use it for the trail, more than likely, just like we do with all the other ones. Right. Yeah, instead of saying.
Instead of earmarking that specifically for the trail.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna cost the developer anything. And I'm good with the rest of it. I thought you guys would agree with
Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Then we will end the work session at 6:24 or 6:22. Everybody a couple minutes. Start the meeting at 6:30.